what am I going to do?
He's got help.
He said, pick out the last day.
Really.
And I hired him down.
Yeah.
Bill from Valdosta, I guess about 2 years before, something like that. I said, that's fine, I hear he's a good man.
He was not overly interested.
Sorry, that's the way it is.
He did.
So I had to call Bill
And let him go?
and let him go.
Yeah, he appealed to me.
I ever had to do in my life, that not like 30 international. As it turned out, one of the best breaks he ever got.
He went down to Tallahassee?
Went down to Tallahassee, and he became a town figure of great note.
Yeah,
Success.
he was.
It was good for him.
I'd like to propose a toast for Jack Harmon's death.
Wait a minute, back here, I want Minner to tell you about the scene. I didn't go to Jack Carver's funeral because he didn't drink enough beer.
I wouldn't have gone in there, sure. But anyway, I went in and Jesse was sitting at the bar. So I go over and sit down beside him, and he was into the cups a little bit. And really down and depressed, and I said, Jesse, are you all right? And he looked at me, and I swear to God, there were tears in his eyes and water. And he said, you have no idea what it's like to get up every day of your life and go to work and to read that son of a bitch. and to know that you can't even touch anything he does. He was
doing the right thing.
Yeah, he was honest, wasn't he? He was honest. But he was
Never understand.
But he was just, I mean, he was sitting there, and I figured it out. He was sitting there, realized that no, he couldn't write with you. He couldn't do anything with you. So it was sad.
How many years from Lincoln Journal?
Well, I've been in town 54 years. I was first 7 years.
Alive, you know. First edition had been out about 30 minutes when we started getting phone calls. The guy he had quoted so beautifully had been dead for 2 years. We had to get the story out for the second edition.
Y'all remember the time?
Yeah, but Jason couldn't write like that.
August. The only time in my 10 years that Tarver came charging into the sports department. It was a Saturday morning of all things, and on the Friday night, the Constitution, Manchester, Georgia played a football game, and they had twins, and one of the twins was famous and made all the touchdowns, and the other one never got to do anything. But in this game, he scored a winning touchdown, the other twins. The Constitution ran a story quoting, identifying the good player as scoring the winning touchdown, and Daddy was furious because the other boy never got any attention. So he came to the paper and went to Tarver's office and said, I tried to call the sports section, they wouldn't answer.
He drove all the way up there.
Yeah, and Tarver comes charging down. Christian was sitting in the slot, you know, with his hat on. And Tarver started, this is the most arrogant group of people in the entire newspaper. You won't answer the phone, you treat our customers. Man, he was really going, oh no. Christian did take off his hat, looked up at him and said, Mr. Tarver, why don't you go back upstairs and run the company, we'll run the sports section. We got the Wright's twins scoring the touchdown in the Journal.
He was not among them. He'd tell you one way or another. He was a great man. And you know something? George Bickers is running WSB radio, WSB television, the Journal, and the Constitution. And the highest salary he ever made was $40,000 in their right wing. $40,000.
That sounds like baseball salaries then compared to now.
Well, we got some stock. We can make that one at that.
$40,000.
Yeah, but they have insurance, Furman, or perks.
I thought one of the funniest things was before one of the Journal All-Star games, and I kept writing about Gann,
Stan Gann.
and then I'd quote Scarborough saying, best since Castleberry, and then I'd quote somebody else saying, equal to Castleberry, and then the next day I'd say, better than Castleberry, and then it was all Gam took the place of Moose Scourin and Mickey Mantle and Roger Merritt was Gam. And he didn't even dress out for the game. He came down with mononuclear.
I remember that. Do you remember when he got the tech? He was practicing his quick draw and shot himself in the leg.
He got the tech, and I think he started at quarterback, and before the game was over, Billy Lockridge was in, and Stan was holding for extra points and field goal. Never, but he has a son who's
a golfer.
Yeah, pretty, not, I mean,
Is
not.
that's his son, Stan,
Yeah,
Stan also?
Stan Junior.
His wife understands a good job.
I remember, one thing I remember about Lockridge, I was out at tech practice and Coach Dodd was up on his little tower and he was giving me this stuff back. Well, the modern athlete is so much better than the old days and on and on and on. And I said, instead of arguing with him, I said, Coach Dodd, I said, I'm sure you're right. I said, I know you in the Hall of Fame and everything, but you couldn't punt with a guy like Lockridge. I said, it'd be pretty ridiculous if you were to try to do that. You were a young man. He blew his whistle and stopped practice, climbed down off the tower, and I climbed down off the tower with him. I didn't know what he was going to do. And the coaches were somewhat startled. He said, come over here, Billy. Give me 2 balls. And he gave him a ball, and he said, now kick the ball up there on top of that tower, Billy. And Lockridge was in a state of terror because he didn't know what was wrong and why he was doing it. He kicked it and went about 20 yards over the tower. Coach Dodd didn't do a practice kick anything. He took it, dropped it, kicked it, and knocked the chair over we had been sitting in. Blew his whistle and said, let's go. And that whole stuff about the modern player was so much better than the old players. Kind of went after.
Well, he referred to the days of the coffin corner kick. Nobody ever heard of today.
That's true.
When he recruited Lockridge, in those days it was legal, he'd take him to his basement and play, his den and play pool, and Lockridge would clean his clock. Well, when he signed him, he signed about 7 quarterbacks. He said, well, Billy, let's shoot around the pool to celebrate. And Dodd just beat him to death and then said, Billy, I think you got a little bit to learn about this college life. He's been just dying for him, you know.
The thing I always appreciated about Coach Dodd is you've covered his practice.
He always had 2 stories. He manipulated the odds.
Exactly right. Yeah.
We didn't know it at the time, but that's what he was doing.
I got on Pat Dye. Went over there about 40 times helping him do his book, and I went to his press conferences, and afterwards I go to his office and said, Pat, here you got the attention of probably 2 or 3 million people. And what do? You get in there and you get in a fuss. Coach Dodd always had something in mind when he went in there. Either he wanted to talk about some player, wasn't getting enough publicity, or some guy swell-headed, or some coach that was about to leave him or something, or something to unnerve the other coach. I said, you don't go in there with any plan. You ought to go in there with some reason for being there. Instead, you go in there and get angry. If he didn't change, he went in there and got angry. One last thing about that. One time I went out there and they were quick kicking. And I said, Coach, I haven't seen a quick kick. I don't know when. He said, yeah, the quick kick's coming back. It's time for the quick kick to be back in football. They were fixing to play Duke, and Murray was his nemesis somehow.
They did not like each other.
No. And they had beaten him one time when he was leading 20 to 0. But anyway, so I said, well, I won't be able to write it if y'all going to do it. He said, no, I want it up in the paper. You know, the quick kick is coming back. All right, so I wrote a big story. The quick kick is coming back into football. Got a headline, and he knew old Murray was reading the paper. So when Tech first got the ball, it was like 1st down and 12 or something, 2nd down and 12 or something. So he let his tailback drop back 2 or 3 things, and the Duke safety man turned his back and started going backwards, and he raised up and threw a pass right over the middle. He wasn't fixing the quick kick.
I did see Coach Dodd get mad though, angry. He got angry at Mr. Minham, wrongly, of course. We had 2 stories. I was covering Tech. Jim was at Georgia, and Jim found out that Coach Rhodes, what was it? No, the football coach went to Florida. Ray Graves. Ray Graves was going to go to Florida. Wally Butch told you that Ray Graves was going to go to Florida. I found out that the kicker for the kicker for Georgia Tech was gonna flunk out.
Yes,
When-
before the bowl
And when, before the Gator Bowl, and when we have a play if it came out. So Jim didn't want to give away his source, so he said, "Hell, you write the Buck story, you write the Grave story, I'll write the Tech story." Remember? So sure enough, I wrote the story, Ray Graves going to Florida, which turned out to be true. And then Jim wrote the story about the kicker, and I just blew his stack. Got mad at Minna for writing that story because it cost him his kicker in the Gator Bowl.
And you couldn't deny it. Tommy Wells, was that his
Tommy Wells, yeah.
And Notre Dame fans realized it was raining on True story.
And this cut him out of the job that they That's funny.
I don't know how many fans I think particular, but
Story. And we could hear from him saying that.
Well, Bill, come on in.
I got the biggest
Hey,
challenge you
I
ever
mean,
had.
get in here.
The bishop said, he said, I do something better
that's what I call a grand entrance.
Rain is down, I'm out of character, I'm on.
Hey, boy, how you doing?
You know Norman.
Nah.
Now we got
Let's start now.
Once his pilot has arrived.
Everybody.
Let me get here.
No, but I, well, you memo.
That's it. So I go back to the paper and I'm going to 2 or 3 paragraphs. No, we want to clean. They went round and round. These people are the roller derby, like the tigers in Sambo. I didn't say little like Sambo. I said like the tigers in Sambo.
And to find out that Tiger and everybody was the ones who was putting back into the post.
Sort of great story.
By the way, guys, you know, this is amazing to me. I did a signing not long ago, and I looked up and Tiger Flower.
Oh, my
I swear to
goodness.
Tiger
God.
Falls?
I can see right the lead blocks that went into the picture, and all of a sudden, here comes a finger right past me, a end of a finger, and blood all over me, all over my knees. The guy walked over talking and not looking, it wasn't knew this somebody. And boy, the end of this finger went flying right by me. This was so
Really?
Yeah.
I asked him one day about it. I said, "What is it?" He said, I said, "I have a good friend who's named Fob, and he pronounces it Fob." And he said, "There's no point in trying. I've tried and tried," so he just gave up.
Is that right?
He said, "Call
Well,
us
most of my
tomorrow and get
relatives
it
have
over."
given up.
You see,
But everywhere I go from, and I can't tell you.
What?
He got justifiable.
He was low.
I remember Jack.
He had no anger in him at all.
Yeah, he did on deadline, you weren't there.
Rick,
I don't know when you were still there and goddamn hood, I'm driving this car, writing 7 stories that night. He got mad as hell at me. He should have. But he kept fussing at me about something because he knew me. I said, shut the hell up.
Chico Genovese, does anybody know where Chico
Oh,
Genovese is?
Jason, man, please. Please. You remember that?
Oh, how about Bill Catton? Does anybody remember Bill
Oh,
Catton?
He was up in Tennessee.
Yeah, well, I
Was running
said,
a
I'll tell you how long
antique
Bill Catton lasted. I hadn't been down there long, and he was supposed to put out the Saturday, I guess it was the Friday paper. I don't know, one day anyway. So it was a disaster. So I called him and I said, "Bill, you better get down there, I need to talk to you." So he came down there about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, carrying his 2-year-old child. I said, "What are you gonna do?" You just,
I was standing, I remember that clearly.
What, so what happened?
huh?
So what happened? He brought his 2-year-old?
Well, yeah, I would go down here and sit down and say, "Look, this is what we don't do, this is what we don't do, and this is what we do do." And instead, he brought down his 2-year-old child, came down in the office, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, carrying a 2-year-old child in his arms. I mean, who's gonna assail a parent in front of them?
Yeah.
And he got that for a whole lot.
But
But I gotta tell you, what you talking about him and the mess he made with the paper.
Oh, God.
You know, the thing I remember so clearly was the day, must have been you that did it. Put Uncle Ed in the slot.
Every day, I was there.
Wait
the whole thing